Good morning, you guys. Welcome to another video. We're gonna zip right out. Actually, before I get to it, it's trash day, so I actually have to put out the trash. Car's on cold start anyway, so let's get to it. Trash has been put out. Now we're ready to get to it, you guys. You guys were expecting this video. I was just kind of waiting on a good time to make it. And yeah, we're gonna talk about some of the mods that I kind of have given some second thought to. I've done a fair amount to this car. It's not, you know, it's not a big turbo built engine car by any means, but you know, I've done, I think, everything I possibly could do that's kind of a most impactful mod, you know, without cracking open the engine or certainly swapping out the turbo. So again, in this video, we're gonna just kind of discuss in great detail as to why I certainly rethought some of the mods that I've done thus far to the car. So I have to get gas in this thing a lot. I'm not too sure what that's all about. Maybe it has something to do with the crackle tune, but I'm going through gas like you guys would not believe. It's pretty insane. But it's $4, so $4 or 93 is pretty reasonable. Back in business, everybody. Look at that. It's 50 beans to fill this thing up. In fact, I can't see the exact, but it's like 50 and change. It's not terrible. This car is just so well planted. Yeah, man, I freaking love this thing, guys. This car drives like it's on rails, and I'm like, everyone, you know, says that about their freaking car. Well, the cool part is this is a Golf, and yeah, it's kind of unassuming in most regards. Not many people think this is like the sporty car, right? A lot of people think the GTI is kind of the way to go, and sure enough, we're stuck behind a bus. All right, the reason why I brought you guys here to this wonderful spot is we're going to talk about a few things, and more specifically the things that I certainly look back on, reflect on, however you want to say it, and maybe you could argue things that I regret about what I've done to this car. Now there's only 3 things that I've identified, so nothing really over the top, and honestly, if you know, if I wouldn't probably, it's not something I need to dramatically change, or it's not something I need to change immediately, but it's something I'll probably consider, and maybe something for you guys to expect as a change in the future. All right, let's start us off with kind of the elephant in the room. I've mentioned this in a couple other videos. There's going to be kind of 2 things that go a little hand in hand in this video, but really specifically, one of the things that I really regret doing on this car was slapping on these APR wheels. As good as they look and as, you know, nice as they, you know, do relatively fit the wheel well, I do slightly regret putting on these wheels on this car. There's a couple different other things I guess I could bring up as to what I regret about it. One of the things being, it's kind of unrelated to the mod itself, was bringing it to, I think it was Town Fair Tire. Don't do that. They will absolutely gouge your wheels. Every single like lug nut or yeah, every single lug spacing has been like scraped up. You know, obviously from Power Tools. It's kind of what you expect. You get what you get what you pay for. They did offer to fix one of my wheels that had a pretty aggressive chip. At this point, I kind of suspected that I should have known better. So this is on me for bringing it to them. It's also on them for screwing up so bad. But anyway, yeah, these wheels are great looking. I like the black. The one thing I will say is I wouldn't hate glossy. I don't have any matte black on this car. I think it would look kind of nice if maybe the mirror caps are matte black, but everything's got to be a little uniform for me for me to actually really love it. So unfortunately, I'm not super big fan of the finish, and really the most important thing about these wheels is how they ride, which is not so great. 19-inch wheels don't cut it on these cars. I've been driving on these, you know, MQB platform with 19-inch wheels for a long time now. I don't really know how I've made it this far, but after reviewing so many different cars that are on 18-inch wheels, and they just rode so much better, you know, this is it's a tough pill to swallow for me because I've always run 19-inch wheels, but with the lowering springs, and the ride is just really tough, and it's one of those things where I'm not, it's not completely unbearable, but it's really firm, and something that I will certainly consider switching up. Another thing I also want to mention about those wheels too is they actually weigh the same, maybe actually a little more than the Pretorias, at least with the tires setup. And the Pretorias is on Continental DWS 06 Plus. I don't know what the weight is between the tires, but let's just say the weight, if it isn't heavier, it's at least the same, so it's not necessarily a huge upgrade in my mind. The wheel is actually a little bit wider as well. It runs, I think it's an 8.5, or it's definitely not a 9. I'm fairly certain it's 8.5, but again, I really don't know my wheel specs. I'm not a wheel guy. I'm just like, I slapped on wheels because I thought they looked cool, and they do. I'm definitely going to consider switching these out. I'm not sure when that'll be, but at some point. And on the subject of wheels, actually, I'm thinking about running an 18-inch wheel with a little bit more sidewall. I won't go 17s because it's just not a fan of 17s. 18 is probably the lowest I'll go as far as size. So yeah, definitely look out for that. I'm really excited to kind of share that with you guys. All right, the next mod that I want to bring up is actually the lowering springs. Again, it kind of ties in a little nicely with the mention of the wheels and kind of ride quality, but I mentioned this in a video before, and I don't necessarily regret lowering the car. I think it's a car that should be lowered. It looks much better when it is low, although I wish I had a different approach. I wish I spent actually a little bit more money, which is kind of silly, but I'll tell you why. There are so many different brands out there that released that actually have some DCC adaptive coilovers, and that's one of the nicest things because you can still adjust the ride height and the ride comfort through your factory DCC controls, which I actually really enjoy DCC. Even with the lowering springs, it does make a difference. It is on VWR lowering springs, but there are a couple things that I will say that I'm not super happy with. The first thing was, me and my buddies installed them. It wasn't the best installation, and there were certainly things that we could have done better. So of course, the result is the car has a little bit of creaking, rattling, and some things I guess could have been done a little nicer. Lowering springs on factory shocks is also not going to be the best as far as ride quality goes. There's no hiding it. It's never going to improve the ride quality. It'll only hinder it, and in this case, that's certainly what it's done. Again, I really have two things going against ride quality, which is the wheels, which again, the car has always had 19-inch wheels. The Pretorias were 19s, and of course the lowering springs. So obviously the ride's going to be hindered, but there are definitely some ways that you can go and kind of adjust that. So definitely something to keep in mind. But yeah, as far as the suspension goes, I really think I probably should have just gone with a dedicated DCC adaptive coilover kit. Again, they're really expensive. They can run up to $2,000, but hey, if down the line you can certainly switch it out, go back to stock, and I obviously learn kind of the ins and outs of my car a little bit better. All right, so for this next kind of mod that we're going to bring up, we actually have to pop the hood. As you guys can see, I don't have my engine cover. The one thing I guess I would have mentioned if I was still running them was the APR coils. I don't actually have those anymore. I'm actually back to factory. Factory works a lot better with IE tunes, so we're back to factory. It's actually been this way for about a year now. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, that's one thing I guess I would have mentioned in this video had I not replaced it. But we're actually going to go a little bit further, and if you guys can see it, I can see it too. The IE downpipe. It's probably one of the best downpipes you can get that's catted. It's great. It's a really great, build quality. Installation, I guess, from the shop wasn't terrible. You know what I mean? And it's really nice materials, and they do a fantastic job. The one thing I'm gonna knock is my car didn't pass inspection. Now, that's kind of a weird thing. Now, why am I mentioning a downpipe as to something that I regret getting? Well, I'll tell you why. If my car wasn't gonna pass inspection, do I really need to have a catted downpipe? There's a lot of pros to having a catted downpipe. First and foremost, it's nicer to Johnny Polar Bear, and number two, it smells a little bit better too when you have a catted downpipe. It's not as egg and rotten egg smelling, so that's something to, I guess, keep in mind. But the thing is, my car still didn't pass inspection, and it probably won't because the stage 2 is always going to kind of pop up that check engine light if it's not running a factory downpipe. So with that being said, the car, it does not pass inspection, and I need to perhaps either put an O2 spacer in this downpipe or switch back to stock. And of course, if I switch back to stock, I'm just gonna switch stock out again. You know, of course, ready for next year, preparing for next year. I'll have to obviously go back to stock. But then, you know, after taking out the stock downpipe, post, you know, inspection, run a catless downpipe. I really want to see what flames look like on this car. I know this tune, this crackle tune, can spit some flames. It certainly sounds like it wants to. So yeah, it's definitely a bit of a childish kind of want of mine, because, you know, flames probably is not the best thing for the car, and I'm probably gonna do anything I can to get those flames, you know, high revs, you name it. But that's just freaking sweet. And if my car, again, is not gonna pass inspection, sure, we'll definitely we'll address that. Now, again, I'm not knocking everything that I've done. The VWR springs, they're pretty good. They're not the best for what I want. So again, this is everything kind of pertaining to my specific taste, kind of what I like. As this channel's always been revolved around, it's kind of been my own taste. You know, there's a lot of people who reach out, you know, why don't you don't want to run this certain mod, or the Aerofab, the Aero kit, I think it looks sick. It's not going on this car. I have to sell this car, you know what I mean? I can't just start drilling holes into the hatch, and you know, and I also kind of, I'm a big sucker for an OEM plus build, as I know we're talking about running a catless downpipe shooting flames, maybe not so OEM plus, but guys, this is a great car. The way it's set up right now is awesome. I mean, you can't go wrong, even with these wheels that, as harsh as they ride, it looks so freaking sweet, and everything else. I mean, this was definitely not one of the easiest videos to make, just because I've been very meticulous. I've researched everything about as to kind of why I've gone a certain route with each mod, and really, everything's great. I can't super knock many things, and this is really only kind of just like a, you know, mods that I slightly regret and things that I will certainly maybe address. The suspension I'm probably not going to address, I'll be honest with you. That's probably why we're going to end up rocking the 18-inch wheels at some point. But yeah, guys, look at this. I mean, just this whole thing is just an absolute unit. It's actually at 50,000 miles now, and I will be actually making a video kind of talking about, you know, a full year being stage 2, as well as 50,000 miles with this car. And spoiler alert, there's not too much to report that's bad. Everything's pretty good. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I apologize if I'm dressed kind of this way and it's a little unsettling for all. It's a work day, guys. I woke up nice and early to make this video for you, so there's gonna be more to come. I'm really excited to start sharing those, so stay tuned for more, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace and love.